Have you ever had one of those quiet mornings, maybe sitting with a cup of coffee, looking out the window, and a thought just sort of drifts in? It's not a loud thought, not a scary one, but it's a question that lingers. It might sound something like, "What's next?" or "Is this it?" For so many of us who have crossed that wonderful milestone of 60, life shifts in ways we didn't quite expect. For decades, our lives were structured by goals. We were saving for a house, putting kids through school, climbing a career ladder, or building a nest egg. Money was the marker. It was the scoreboard. We were told, and we believed, that financial security was the ultimate prize. And don't get me wrong, it is a wonderful thing to have. It provides comfort, safety, and peace of mind. It means you've earned your rest. But here's the thing about rest, it's only satisfying when you've had just enough of it. When every day starts to feel like Saturday, and you realize you've lost track of what day it is, that feeling of "is this it?" can start to creep in. That's not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that something inside you is still very much alive and ready for the next chapter. The part of you that used to solve problems, that used to feel needed, that used to come home tired but satisfied from a hard day's work, that part of you is still there, waiting for a new kind of purpose. And that brings me to the heart of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to explore an idea that might sound a little radical at first, but I promise you, by the end of this, it will feel like the most natural thing in the world. The idea is this: why volunteering after 60 can add more joy to your life than money ever did. Now, I'm not saying money is bad. We all need it. But money is a tool for buying experiences and things. Joy, the kind that sticks with you, the kind that warms you up on a cold night when you're alone, the kind that makes you feel truly alive, that doesn't come from a tool. It comes from connection. It comes from meaning. And that is exactly what volunteering gives you. Let's start with the first reason why this is so powerful, especially for us. And it's a big one: it replaces the identity you might feel you've lost. For 30, 40, maybe 50 years, you had a role. Maybe you were a teacher, a nurse, a business owner, a manager, a builder. That title wasn't just a job, it was a part of who you were. It told the world, and more importantly, it told you, "I have a place here. I contribute. I am capable." When that role ends, even in the happiest of retirements, there can be a subtle but profound identity shift. You go from being someone to just being retired. And while being retired is a gift, it's a role defined by what you're not doing anymore, not by what you are doing. I remember talking to a gentleman named Robert a few years back. He had been a high school principal for over 30 years. He was the guy everyone went to for answers. He thrived on the chaos and the problem solving. When he retired, he and his wife moved to a beautiful community by a lake. It was everything they dreamed of. But after about 6 months, Robert confided in me that he felt like he was disappearing. He'd go to the hardware store, and no one needed his advice. He'd sit by the lake, and there were no problems to solve. He said, "I feel invisible. Like I'm just taking up space." Then, on a whim, he saw a flyer at the local library asking for volunteers to help with a literacy program for adults. He thought, "Well, I know how to teach people to read." He walked in, and suddenly, he wasn't just a retired guy. He was Mr. Robert again. He had a schedule. He had people who were waiting for him. He had a problem to solve: how to help a nervous adult finally decode a sentence. That feeling of being needed, of having a unique skill that could change someone's life, restored his identity in a way that a bigger pension check never could have. When you volunteer, you tap into that deep well of expertise you've spent a lifetime building. You're not just an extra person in the world, you are a vital resource. And that feeling, that sense of "I matter," is the foundation of genuine, lasting joy. The second reason builds right on top of that. It cures the loneliness epidemic that doesn't get talked about enough. We hear a lot about loneliness in the news, and they usually talk about young people or the very old and homebound. But there's a specific kind of loneliness that can hit in your 60s and 70s. It's not necessarily about being alone. You might have a partner. You might have neighbors you wave to. It's a loneliness of purpose. It's the loneliness of no longer being in the flow of human interaction that a job or raising a family forces upon you. You don't have the water cooler chats, the inside jokes with colleagues, the casual teamwork. Money can't buy that. You can go on a luxury cruise, and you'll be surrounded by people, but you're all just passengers passing in the night. But when you volunteer, you show up week after week. You become part of a team again. You have a shared goal with other volunteers. You bond over the silly things that happen, the challenges, and the small victories. Think about volunteering at an animal shelter. You're not just cleaning cages, you're part of a community of people who all love animals. You share stories about the funny cat who finally came out of its shell. You celebrate together when a long-term resident gets adopted. Those conversations are real. They're not the surface-level small talk you have at a party. They are connections built on shared values and shared work. That connection is an antidote to loneliness that no amount of money can buy. It fills the social calendar, not with obligations, but with genuine human warmth. And it's not just about being around people. It's about being around a diverse group of people you might never have met otherwise. You might be a retired accountant volunteering alongside a college student who's majoring in art history. You get to hear their perspective, their energy, their hopes. It bridges the generational gap that can make us feel isolated. Suddenly, you're not just old, you're a mentor, a friend, a coworker. You are woven back into the fabric of your community, and that fabric is strong and warm and welcoming. We've started to uncover something really important here. We've seen how volunteering restores your identity, giving you back that vital sense of being needed. And we've seen how it stitches you back into a community, banishing the quiet loneliness of purpose. But there's even more to this. There's a deeper, almost surprising benefit that happens inside of you, a physical and emotional shift that money can't even begin to touch. It's the profound joy of feeling useful and the incredible way it changes your brain and your health. I want to talk about that next, because it's truly the secret ingredient that makes this chapter of life the most joyful one yet. So, we've started this conversation about why volunteering can bring a richness to life that money simply can't buy. We talked about how it gives us back our identity, that feeling of being a vital, contributing member of society again. And we talked about how it weaves us back into the fabric of community, replacing that sense of drifting loneliness with genuine connection. It feels good to talk about this, doesn't it? It feels like coming home to a part of ourselves we might have forgotten was there. But here's where it gets really fascinating. This isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling. There's actually a science to it. And understanding that science makes the choice to volunteer feel less like a nice thing to do, and more like the healthiest thing you can do for yourself. Let's move to that third reason, which is something I like to call the helper's high. You've probably heard of a runner's high, that rush of endorphins people get from intense exercise. Well, there's a similar thing that happens when we do something kind for someone else. It's a chemical reaction in your brain. When you volunteer, when you give of yourself without expecting anything in return, your brain releases a cocktail of feel-good chemicals. You get a rush of endorphins, which are natural painkillers. You get a boost of serotonin, which is the chemical that helps regulate your mood and makes you feel calm and happy. And perhaps most importantly, you get a surge of oxytocin. Oxytocin is often called the love hormone or the bonding hormone. It's the same chemical that floods a mother's brain when she holds her newborn baby. It's what creates trust and deepens connections. When you're volunteering, and you're connecting with someone you're helping, or even just with the people you're volunteering alongside, your brain is literally bathing in this chemical that makes you feel loved and connected. Try buying that at a store. You can't. I think about a woman I know named Eleanor. After her husband passed, she found herself living alone for the first time in over 50 years. She was financially comfortable, but she told me she felt a physical ache, a heaviness in her chest that just wouldn't go away. Her doctor checked her heart, said it was fine, but the ache remained. A friend eventually dragged her to a local hospital to volunteer at the front information desk. She was terrified at first, dealing with stressed-out families and confused patients. But something remarkable happened. After a few weeks, she realized the ache in her chest was gone. She was so focused on helping others find their way, on offering a kind word to a worried mother, that her own pain had receded. Her brain was too busy producing oxytocin and serotonin to make room for the cortisol, the stress hormone that had been weighing her down. That's the power of the helper's high. It's not a metaphor, it's real chemistry. And for us, after 60, this is crucial. We're at an age where we might be more prone to aches and pains, to worries about health or loneliness. Volunteering acts as a natural, side effect-free antidote. It literally changes your brain chemistry for the better. And that brings us to the fourth reason, which is a direct result of the third. It gives you a powerful sense of purpose, which is a known driver of longevity. We hear the word purpose thrown around a lot, but what does it actually mean for someone our age? It's not about changing the whole world. It's about having a reason to get out of bed in the morning. It's about having a small corner of the world that is better because you are in it. And that reason, that purpose, is one of the most powerful predictors of a long and healthy life. There have been numerous studies on this. They've looked at people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, and the ones who report having a strong sense of purpose, whether it's tending a garden, helping raise grandchildren, or volunteering at a food bank, consistently outlive those who don't. They have lower rates of heart disease, they maintain their mobility longer, and they even have a lower risk of cognitive decline like Alzheimer's. Why? Because purpose creates a positive feedback loop in your brain and your body. When you have a purpose, you have a reason to stay active. You're not just sitting at home, you're going somewhere, you're doing something. When you have a purpose, you have a reason to eat well, because you need the energy for your volunteer shift on Thursday. When you have a purpose, your brain is constantly engaged, learning new names, navigating new environments, solving new problems. It keeps the neural pathways firing and creates new ones. It's like mental and physical exercise rolled into one, wrapped in a blanket of meaning. Think about the simple act of helping at a community garden. Your purpose might be to make sure the tomatoes get watered. That one simple task gets you outside in the fresh air and sunshine, it gets you moving and bending, and it connects you with other gardeners. And at the end of the season, you see the literal fruits of your labor. You grew something. You contributed. That feeling of accomplishment, of having made a tangible difference, is a deep, soul-level satisfaction that a credit card statement can never provide. It shifts your focus from what you've lost to what you still have to give. And that shift in focus is everything. When you're focused on a purpose outside yourself, your own aches and worries become smaller. They don't disappear, but they lose their power to define your day. You stop asking, "How do I feel this morning?" and start asking, "What needs to be done this morning?" And that, my friends, is a recipe for a vibrant, engaged, and joyful life. So, we've uncovered the secret chemistry in our brains that makes helping others feel so good, and we've seen how that sense of purpose can literally add years to our lives. It's incredible to think that something as simple as giving our time can have such a profound impact on our health and happiness. But we're not done yet. There's one more piece to this puzzle. It's about the stories we tell ourselves about this stage of life, and how volunteering can completely rewrite that story in the most beautiful way. I want to share that with you next, because it's the final ingredient that ties everything together and shows us just how radiant this chapter can be. We've been on quite a journey together in this conversation. We started by acknowledging that quiet question that can pop into our heads in this stage of life, that feeling of what's next. We talked about how volunteering answers that by handing us back our identity, making us feel seen and capable again. Then we explored the beautiful science of it all, how giving actually creates a healthy chemical reaction in our brains, giving us a natural high and a powerful sense of purpose that can add years to our lives. It's remarkable, isn't it? How the very thing we think we're giving away, our time, our energy, is actually the thing that gives us so much back in return. But there's a final reason why volunteering after 60 brings a joy that money can't touch. And this one is perhaps the most personal, the most profound of all. It allows you to rewrite the story of this chapter of your life. For so long, our culture has told a very specific story about getting older. It's a story of decline. It's a story of slowing down, of stepping aside, of taking it easy. It's a story that says your most productive, most exciting, most impactful years are behind you. And if you listen to that story long enough, you start to believe it. You start to shrink your world to fit that story. You might find yourself saying things like, "Oh, I couldn't possibly learn that new technology," or "I'm too old to try something like that," or "They don't need someone my age." But here's the truth, that story is a lie. It's a story invented by a world that is obsessed with youth and productivity. And every time you walk into a place to volunteer, you get to tear up that old, tired script and write a brand new one. When you volunteer, you are no longer the person who is retired and slowing down. You become the person who is essential and showing up. You become the person who has the wisdom to calm a frantic situation, the patience to teach a skill to someone who is struggling, the steadiness to be a reliable presence in an unpredictable world. You are writing a new story where your age is not a limitation, but a superpower. I think about a man named George. George spent his entire career as an accountant. He was meticulous, quiet, and comfortable with numbers. When he retired, his family bought him a fancy new smartphone and tablet, hoping he'd get into photography or video calling. George just felt frustrated by them. They sat in a drawer. The story he was telling himself was, "I'm too old for this newfangled stuff. That's for the young people." Then he started volunteering at a local historical society. Their big project was digitizing old photographs and documents, cataloging them on a computer so they'd be preserved forever. It required data entry, organization, and a meticulous eye. It required an accountant. Suddenly, that tablet wasn't a toy for young people, it was a tool for his important work. He had to learn how to use it, not to be cool, but to do the job. And he did. George's new story wasn't about a man who couldn't keep up with technology, it was about the man who single-handedly saved the town's history, one digital file at a time. He didn't just learn a new skill, he became a guardian of memory. That's a story with meaning. That's a story of power and purpose. You get to write that story for yourself. Maybe your story becomes, "I'm the person who helps kids learn to read, and because of me, little Sarah picked up her first book on her own." Or, "I'm the person who sits with hospice patients, and I bring a peace and a comfort that their families are too stressed to provide." Or, "I'm the person who helps build houses, and my crew knows they can count on me to show up every Saturday, rain or shine." These are not stories of decline. These are stories of impact. These are stories of legacy. And the beauty is, you don't write this story with a pen and paper. You write it with your actions, with your time, with your heart. And the final page is never written. There's always another chapter to add. So, as we wrap up this conversation, I want to leave you with a gentle challenge. I'm not asking you to change your whole life overnight. I'm not asking you to sign up for 40 hours a week. I'm asking you to think about that story you've been telling yourself. Is it a story of limitation, or is it a story of possibility? Is it a story that shrinks your world, or one that expands it? If you feel even a tiny spark of interest, a little nudge in your heart, just take one small step. Don't overthink it. Don't worry about finding the perfect fit. Just do a little exploring. Think about what you loved to do in your past, not for money, but just for the joy of it. Did you love working with your hands? Did you love being around animals? Did you love organizing things? Did you love listening to people's stories? That's your clue. Then, just look. Maybe it's a quick search online for volunteer opportunities near me. Maybe it's a phone call to your local library, or a school, or a hospital, or an animal shelter, or a food bank. Just ask, "Do you need any help?" I promise you, the answer will almost always be a grateful, "Yes, we do." You have a lifetime of wisdom, skill, and love to offer. And the world is waiting for it. More importantly, a deeper, richer, more joyful version of yourself is waiting for you on the other side of that first step. Money gave you comfort. It gave you security. But giving your time, your true self, that gives you joy. The kind of joy that settles deep in your bones and makes you feel, at any age, that you are fully, wonderfully alive. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had a volunteer experience that changed your life? Or are you thinking about trying something new? Please share your story in the comments below. You never know who you might inspire just by sharing your experience. And if this conversation meant something to you, if it sparked a little light, please hit that like button. It helps more people find their way to these conversations. And if you'd like to explore more ways to make this chapter of life your most vibrant yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. We're in this together. Here's to you. Here's to the incredible story you are still writing. And here's to the joy that's waiting for you just around the corner. I'll see you in the next video.